There's a camera over here, and if you speak into this microphone, you will be podcasted out into the podosphere. If you do not speak into the microphone, you will not be heard. So remember, speakers, if people in the audience are speaking, to get them to use the other microphone, because I've been listening to the podcast and they sound really cool, except for when we have people ask questions. Or you could repeat the question. That's always a good thing to do. So, Granddaddy Mike is in Las Vegas, as is a couple other people from our board. Las Vegas is having a big, fancy, schmancy marijuana industry deal, right? Does that cover it? Industry deal? So those of us who aren't big industry moguls are here, and happy to be so. Uh, so I'll be hosting the meeting like the old days, um, and it should be a lot of fun. We have some nice guests tonight with us. We have Rudy Roma, who has been working pretty hard in the community. You may have seen some of his promotional items online or gone to a event like the one in Modesto. Was that the most recent event, Modesto? Yeah, Modesto, where they had the panel. It was pretty awesome. Met Rudy at 1841 El Camino, who's also been a good sponsor of SacNORML, and also has a feature written by yours truly in the latest Dope magazine. I do have another case of Dope magazines in my car. If you didn't get one, please hit me up and make sure you get one. And take a picture with the Dope magazine and post it online. It's it's still small in Cali, and we need all the promotion we could get. They're spending not very much money on that. But it's posting, so I won't go into the dirty details about Dope magazine. I wanted to cover some, and then we also have from the new initiative CCC. Where's that? Where's Mo? Where's Tristan? Okay. Well, we have the new initiative, the one that's not the Facebook guy one, the George Mull written initiative. What was it called? CCCP, I think it's. What is it? CC what? CCTA. Okay. And actually, we had a meeting with George and Tristan before and heard some of the ins and outs of it. It sounds quite interesting. So they're going to talk a little bit about that. And where's Christine? All right. And we do have a grassroots initiative, literally grassroots, like as in the number of people gathering signatures in this room statewide. So we definitely need signatures, and we need signature gatherers for the CCHI initiative. Christine Van Skyke you have your board here with you, and if you want to register to vote, you can also register to vote. We also want to talk with you, Marcia, the CC Democratic people that actually choose to register Democratic to get them submitted through Brownie Mary. Don't you get some kind of credit for that or something? Money to could be made. Oh, you don't, doctor. Okay, so never mind that. um, we also have Lynette Davies is going to cover what happened. If you read the B, you might have heard a little. The city of Sacramento actually, the Law and Legislative Committee and staff and bureaucrats, significant number of changes to current Sacramento law. There's also some talk about medical marijuana. You can go on Sacramento's website and watch. If you go into the meetings and you go to the Law and Ledge, November 10th, you can watch the meeting from our community, came out and make sure they were heard. And it's got some points addressing like things like delivery services, which are all out banned. But then it's got some other things that could have more unintended consequences, which some of the stuff is trying to fix unintended consequences. Some of the better things are allowing dispensaries more leniency with moving and their board, but I'll let Lynette cover that. So, and then just in the general national news, as you know, we're having a national election, and presidential candidate Bernie Sanders actually put his money where his mouth is and proposed a marijuana bill in the Senate. So let's give a round of applause for Bernie Sanders, who will be endorsed, right? We voted to endorse him, right? Okay, and Marshall will come up and talk about the latest Brownie Mary Club endorsements. So the bill deschedules marijuana for those out in podcast land. Check that out. That's amazing. And a lot of times you see presidential candidates and they're like, "What is it you like? Oh yeah, I like that too. Vote for me." Actually, that's real meaningful. I believe I saw something where that moved Hillary more left towards marijuana too. So, Bernie for president, if not president, vice president. That's we need Bernie on the ticket, I think. But there's some studies elected via primary, and everybody's registered to vote in the primary, correct? Then he could win as president. I read a report, so that's good. If anybody's not been privy, the MMR, anybody know what I'm talking about? The statewide, they call it medical marijuana restrict. What is it? MMR. It just got a new thing. They're hiring a chief of the medical marijuana whatever board, and but you have to have like a bachelorette's degree, so I'm out. No Sierra College. Are you talking about the executive director for the new laws? Yeah. The commission? Yes. They actually, yeah, it's all over Facebook. There was some like Craigslist ad or something where they're looking for a chief. I know, like I heard that like Hezekiah Allen's going for that. We'll have some people. I'm hoping somebody from our community goes for that. So, Christine Van Skyke for medical marijuana chief. Do you have a bachelorette's? Okay. It's consumer affairs. Are you going to talk a lot? If so, you need to come on the mic because the podcast can't hear you. Okay, I'm all for Christine. I'd like to see somebody we know. And if you have any other suggestions, tell all your friends that have. That's the only thing. I read bachelorettes and I stopped reading because I'm like, well, I can't do it. So that's going to be our meeting. Anybody else has any announcements are welcome. It's going to be kind of a light meeting. Just on our own front, SacNORML is growth and changes where the board is working on. We're getting a state chapter filing. I know we had voted on a subchapter of CalNORML filing. We're not going to do that now. We're going to go with the state filing, and Secretary Anthony. Thank you for that. Answers, and then I just the last announcement is next month's meeting. I don't want to have a meeting. I want to have a party here. Okay, and it'll be, what is it, the 16th, I think? Okay, and I'll put on the Santa suit. We can do pictures if you want, Santa Claus or whatever. The last time I tried to get some kind of a food served here, they wanted like $350 to cater. So I don't think we'll ever go the catering route here, but maybe we can come up with some idea for food or whatever. So we'll be here, whatever, on the 16th, probably just to have a social gathering, little regrouping, and maybe report on what we end up with our filing on SacNORML. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Rudy. Rudy Roma, like I said, I met him over at 1841. He was doing tabling there, and had a great time talking with him. And he has a lot of interesting information and a website. Come on up. And he's going to let us know what 420 Insight is, what their next project is, and what you can do to help him.
Thank you, everybody. It's wonderful to be here tonight, especially with a lot of kindred spirits. I got into this industry, a few years ago, and it's been a mixed match. I mean, with a lot of different, dispensary owners, some of which I have never had an opportunity to meet family here. People for patients. And that's pretty much why I'm because of the education. I got my my daughter. My eldest daughter, she was diagnosed with at the age of 8 months with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and months we went through spinal absolute radiation chemotherapy. We lost her at 15 months old, and it's kind of hard, but and you know 3.5 years ago, I had the opportunity to listen, read, and actually meet two young girls. One was 3, and the other was 7.5. And they were using. One was using just cannabis oil. The other was using, in addition to chemotherapy. They're in remission today, And I always kind of think of what if, what if I had the opportunity, and so it really kind of. Because it happened a long time ago, and because it wasn't fresh in my daughter's, her life wasn't fresh in my we all live and we kind of move forward. I just had this pain, this ache that just kind of came out of my heart, and it was like it was a little guilt because what if, but hello. Yes. Yes. Excuse me. So, fast forward. My heart is about patience, awareness. So I look at everybody who's a medical marijuana patient as my child. Whether you're young and old, my heart's there. So over the last 2 years, I've taken the opportunity to, start 420 Insight, which is focused on, which is a healthcare information company, which is focused on education and engagement of the medical marijuana patients, which is really important because today patients are coming to the dispensaries and not knowing what to do. They don't understand about the proper titration. There's a large segment of the seniors. The seniors are out there. They're going through a lot of aches and pains. Definitely a lot of aches and pains, and we've just, I have seen family members, I've seen patients who've had such great success, but it's a protocol that they're still learning, and this is after years and years. And so, 420 Insights mission statement is to advocate and elevate all information cannabis related. I believe in clarity, transparency, and the right to live with dignity and quality of life. That's my focus. And so with that, I had the opportunity to create a wonderful website that is now garnering about 150,000 unique visitors every single month. I started Awaken America conferences last year, July 24th, and we started the second iteration on September 21st, and on November 21st, we will have Awaken America Sacramento. We're going to have 2 sessions. The first session is going to be seniors and their caregivers. The second session is going to be cancer patients and their caregivers. We're going to have a workshop, and that workshop is going to be 45 minutes to help people really kind of understand about the endocannabinoid system, proper titration, understanding this particular industry as a whole. After which, then we're going to have a sponsor spotlight. And so in between the 2 sessions, we're actually having a 45-minute networking event, which is really, really important because patients, this has got to be patient-led, patient-driven. This is where the rubber meets the road. And people need to engage, help one another, because there's a lot of people who just don't have any idea what they're doing. And if they do have a little bit of idea, just learning about the different types of titration. This is a piece that that my wife's created. It's about the different methods of consumption. Yes, thank you. We have oral, the oral, sublingual, smoking, topicals, vaporizing, suppositories, and of course the new transdermal patches that are out. So these are all different ways that we can help medicate people properly, you know, and again, I can't express the importance of microdosing. Microdosing is where a lot of people are having a lot of success because a lot of people are overdosing, and you know, it always helps out to actually have a little bit of understanding. It allows you to stretch your medication a lot longer.
What's your website's URL?
The website's www.420insight.com.
Okay,
thank you. So what I've been able to do is also, we have materials that I go to different dispensaries, medical recommendation centers, and I drop off, you know, the methods of consumption, all these other postcards, free of charge. I just want it's all about education and advocacy. So that's what 420 Insight's all about. Awaken America is actually to engage community with people suffering from, you know, like in Sacramento in 2 weeks, seniors and cancer patients. So I want to thank you.
Well, I plan on going to your next event. Thank you, Rudy, for doing that. Also want to get a lot of those printed materials for us because we put them out every month in our meetings. So that'd be awesome. Okay, so moving right along. Who's ready next? Dale, I forgot to announce that you were going to be in the meeting, but you're next on my agenda. Dale Schaefer has agreed to come speak about the future of medical marijuana. If you don't know who Dale Schaefer is, you probably need to go back a little ways and start learning about the marijuana community. Dale has fought for our rights. He's a lawyer, and let him tell you all about what he's been going through and what he's doing now.
I'm a little taller than most of these people here, so I don't want to screw up your thing here, okay? Not only am I IT challenged, I'm mechanically challenged here. Well, thank you for inviting me here tonight. I am today 2 months and 3 days out of federal prison. I don't know that makes me anything special, but I do know about eating bologna and sleeping on yoga mats for a long time. One of the very interesting things that happened when I first got out was I talked to Dale Geringer, and he said, well, I'm going underground till July to write an initiative. I thought, well, that's interesting. I hope this works out for you. When he popped up just before this last meeting last month, the initiative was still sort of out there for people to comment upon, and I think there's 18 initiatives out there right now. Half a dozen have made it to the Secretary of State's office to be given a name, to go out for signature. This woman from the CCHI probably knows more about this than I do. But we've also had the governor sign 3 bills into law, which are not something on the horizon. They are a clear and present situation to be dealt with. Now, I have a history in this movement that takes me back a long time. My body tells me how old I am, but I've been around long enough to be in high school when marijuana was still legal as a medicinal agent of the old Tax Act. Not that I was imbibing in those days, but I certainly got my consciousness in the 1960s about justice, looking out for people of color, poverty, for women's rights, things like that. And when Timothy Leary kicked the crap out of the federal government on the old Tax Act, Richard Nixon was our leader in those days, and within a year we had our current 1970 Omnibus Controlled Substances Act. Now, we were told that marijuana, that pejorative that's used for cannabis, was going to be in Schedule 1 until it could be researched and tested. Well, cocaine and morphine got grandfathered into that law, but of course marijuana couldn't. Now, Richard Nixon wasn't going to be honest with us about what was going on, but things began to leak out a little bit when the Schaefer Commission issued a report that said, you know what, I don't think we should be arresting people for small transactions of marijuana. It isn't the hobgoblin you're trying to make it out to be. Nixon pooped a couple of Twinkies over that, threatened him, and we now have some of the tapes of what he actually said about the. Now, one thing I got to warn you, I've been profane most of my life, and prison didn't fix me any, but Nixon said it was them goddamn Jew psychiatrists that are trying to make marijuana legal, and he wanted a report out of Schaefer that was going to rip the ass out of these people. Now, in my mind, that smacks of an agenda, and of course, it didn't take long before people on administration were saying we're going to have a prison industrial complex here within a generation. It's exactly what we've got. We were all hopeful when Carter was president that Peter Bourne would step up and help get marijuana rescheduled, maybe taken out of this insane situation. But of course, people who were in the know about NORML know that Bourne got kind of wrapped into some things that he didn't intend to get wrapped into. Carter had to cut ties with him, and he walked away from trying to legalize, decriminalize, normalize marijuana back at the end of his administration, and we went right into Ronald Reagan, who was a paragon of virtue to beat the drums for the drug war. Now, I was in the military during the Vietnam War. I was in the medical field. I was a hospital corpsman, and marijuana was being used routinely. It just was being done on the QT because doctors knew that when you're puking your guts out with cancer, they'd ask us corpsmen to roll somebody out in the back, and we didn't necessarily roll them a joint, but we facilitated. And of course, we were doing things that were illegal. Not that that always stopped me, but it was clear the medical community knew what this was about, and they had known since O'Shaughnessy went to India in the 1830s and found them using tinctures to stop seizures in infants and all the other things that they were doing. Queen Victoria famously treated her menstrual cramps with this stuff. It's not like we don't know what it does, but the war on drugs has turned out to be an us versus them war, and it has been for over 100 years. And one of the insights that I'm beginning to, maybe it took me a long time to really get a grasp of here, is that the us versus them has worked for a long time. And the transfer of power into the hands of people in law enforcement has been marching along for quite some time. Now, I am an attorney, and I was trained back in the 1980s when I went to law school that the system is not supposed to do what it does today. I mean, when you read the books and you read the cases, it's not supposed to do this. But the de facto problem is that been co-opted by people in positions of power, and this is not a brand new phenomenon, but the co-option of the power has been targeted against primarily minority communities. But I represent something that they don't quite know what to do with. And when I was being tried and convicted, I was told that I got in trouble because I'm one of the golden children. I should never have been involved in this. And I didn't quite understand what that meant. I mean, I'm from white privilege. I'm a big old white dude. When I went to prison, they told me I'm a wood, and I figured out that means I'm a white dude. I'm a big old white dude. I speak well. I'm relatively intelligent. I don't know how smart I am, but I'm smart enough. Whenever I wanted something from the system, the door seemed to open for me, and it was cool. I represented cops for a long time. I was inside law enforcement, carried a concealed weapon, had a concealed weapons permit, and I was one of the people that got the privilege from the system, so I didn't think about it. But when Molly got cancer, and we had to deal with the realities of her using cannabis to treat this, the other side of the system bit us on the ass. I didn't particularly like it very much. Back in 97 and 98, you couldn't drive to a dispensary. I mean, Lynette, you have something here that we didn't have in those days. I drove Molly to San Francisco, bald, puking the whole way to go to Dennis Peron's Cannabis Buyers Club and buy a quarter of an ounce at a time. So she went in one time bald, one time with a scarf, and one time with a wig on to fool him. I don't know if she fooled him or not, but a 100-mile trip for 3/4 an ounce, and she was using 2 ounces a week. This was not a paradigm that was going to work out too well. So I grew it. Of course, I was charged with growing marijuana and conspiring to grow it and distribute it, which, in a matter of fact, I actually did. I'm a felon. I think the laws are immoral and unjust, but I actually did what they accused me of. Now, some of the insights that I got along the way of working for law firms that represented police officers' unions, working for law firms that represented public entities that had to deal with cops that did stupid things like shoot people and beat them up and violate their rights, representing police officers, but I got some insight into what happens on that side of the fence, if you will. I also got some insight of what happens when someone you care about is a patient. And I'm a patient too. I'm a hemophiliac. I have bled more times in my life than I care to think about. My body's falling apart, and the doctors wanted to put me on opioids, and I chose cannabis therapy. And when the federal government took it away, I had to use opioids. So I've been in those trenches before. I know that this is a personal thing. I took care of patients for years, so I've seen people be damaged and die and come back, and I've seen the families. And so when Molly and I were dealing with sick people, and I was able to get a pass from law enforcement, but other people weren't, it pissed me off. It really didn't set well with me. And so I understand that this movement got started, and it was based upon sick people. The people that had the real stones in this movement were the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. The LBGT, we call it today. In those days, it was the gay rights movement because their friends, their lovers, their families were dying of AIDS. And when you're dying, all this other stuff takes a back seat. And you know what? When you look somebody in the eye that's dying and somebody said, well, you can't smoke pot because it's illegal, you get a spasm in one of these fingers real quick and you say, stop it, stop it. This stuff has never killed anybody from an overdose. The medical community knows that, it understands that. They didn't understand the endocannabinoid system 3,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago when they were first writing about this. But people knew that nobody was dropping dead. They didn't have chocolate in those days, but you get stoned and you go eat a lot of stuff. It's got some psychoactive properties to it. It's not benign, and we should not be fooling ourselves that this is a benign subject or substance, because it's not. But when you get trained in medicine, you learn about the big stuff. What's the lethal dose? If you don't want to kill somebody. And the LD, the lethal dose for half the population is 3/4 of a ton in 15 minutes. So you go, okay, well, it ain't going to kill you. Okay? So it's relatively safe and non-toxic. So if you take too much of it, what happens? Well, some people get a little giggly. Some people actually hallucinate. So there are some problems. If you have propensities in your DNA to be schizophrenic, there's still a lot of noise out there. It may trigger that, but it doesn't cause mental illness. Getting arrested will, okay? And I can tell you, I struggled with a mental illness I called anger as I was sitting in prison wondering, how in the hell can these people stick people in prison for trying to help somebody who's sick? Okay? Now, as I came out of prison and I saw all these initiatives excuse me, flying everywhere, the governor about to sign this set of bills that does some things, quite frankly, I'm not too happy about, I started thinking to myself, where in the world is the electorate going to go with this? Because the people in this room are not the people who are going to get these initiatives passed. You're going to get the signatures. You're going to do good things to get it in front of the public, but it's Mary and Joe Doak's average voter who's going to vote this in. And what happened in Ohio tells me these people aren't stupid. Okay? Now, I can't say that I read the Ohio bill, but it seemed like there were some people trying to make monopolies and turn this into making a lot of money. And that didn't set well with the electorate. And I think if we have something to learn from that, look at these initiatives and see, look at this set of bills the governor just signed. Are people going to make a crap load of money on this? And if so, then it sort of violates my fundamental principles. I made a crap load of money practicing law, but I gave marijuana away. Okay? Now, still got me in prison, so it didn't help me from the law, but it helped my heart feel better. Because I have seen people who were sick, and they're sick today. They can't grow marijuana and wait 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. They need it today, which creates something has to be done to make it available. People live on a shoestring in this country. My 5 children are struggling just to keep their head above water. And if one of them's to get sick and they had to buy 2 ounces of marijuana a week at $300 or $400, $500, that's just not possible for average people. So the cost of this is something that has to be kept in the forefront of your thought. We have a system that's developed from Prop 215 and it sort of rolled along. It was a bare bones initiative that didn't say a lot. So when I first got involved with this, what does it mean? Hell, nobody knew what it meant. We were breaking ground. I had Molly tell a judge one time, you know, where do you go to medical school? As he was trying to tell him, you just don't qualify for this law. Well, you know, where'd you go to medical school? After he got done pooping a Twinkie, threw the guy in jail, the appellate court asked the same question. You know, where did you go to medical school? The doctor said the person qualified. Okay, those were battles that were being fought 15 years ago. Move forward. We get the new 2004 Prop 420. Now we can have collectives and cooperatives. Okay, a green light goes on, and a lot of things begin to happen, but the federal government, you know, the Bush administration came after me. They were not going to just roll over and let this stuff happen. They continue to make targeted attacks on people, throw them in prison. I spent a lot of time in prison with people who were doing what I thought were legal dispensaries, and they were eating the same bologna I was in federal prison. Federal government does not like this happening because it attacks their fundamental power base. So as these initiatives come forward and they get presented to you for signature, please sign them and get them on the ballot if you can, so people have an opportunity to look at them. But there are some things that I've learned along the line that I believe should be concerns of all of ours. First of all, hemp. Smoking pot and all this stuff is going to go on. There's going to be a lot of people make a lot of money. People are going to fall on their face in this. They're going to go bankrupt. They're going to overspend and all this that's going to happen with the psychoactive part of this. But for my family, my children, your children, our grandchildren, hemp is going to be a future. So pay attention to what these initiatives do with hemp, because this law the governor signed didn't do crap for hemp. Nothing. Okay? It's all about medical. We're going to license, make it safe, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's all well and good, but you know, hemp is going to replace petroleum. The end of the petroleum era is in sight of my children and grandchildren. And the longer we sit on this and stick our thumbs up our butt and forget about the realities here, the worse it's going to be when it actually has to have something done. So this is something to think about. Hemp needs to be something that's not a specialty item. Everything that you wear should be made of hemp. Cotton should be one of those outdated commodities, okay? There's a lot of problems with parents having their children snatched. They threatened to take my granddaughter away because somebody saw a marijuana leaf on the carpet. Oh my God, Katie grabbed the kids. You know, there's a marijuana leaf on the carpet and the kid might eat it. So what? Okay, they give it to children. Doesn't hurt them. But the cops threaten to take it away. And all across this country, you see all the time, kids being ripped from their parents. Some of these states, not necessarily California, some of these states are so backward in their understanding of the safety and efficacy of this plant, they'll swoop in, they'll charge you, they'll take your kids away, they'll brand you a bad parent. So pay attention to what happens with children and parental rights. Driving. The big bugaboo right now is driving. I was on a panel at Sac State a month or so ago with former Sheriff John McGinnis. All he kept talking about is driving and drinking, and there's marijuana. And finally I said, stop, stop, stop. Why are you putting alcohol and marijuana in the same sentence with driving? Why, why, why? Because it's a bugaboo. It's the boogeyman out there. People have been smoking pot for several generations and driving, and there's not a big wave of accidents and deaths from cannabis-related driving. Okay? So stop it already. You drink and you drive, you hurt people, you kill people. The jury's already back from that one. Okay? You can't just say marijuana makes you an unsafe driver and expect people to believe it anymore, because they don't, but they still arrest you. I don't mind making a living as an attorney, but I hate having to get people out of trouble for something that doesn't really exist as a problem. Now, another problem that continues to flourish out there is what happens at the local government. I mean, Lynette's going to come and talk to you about what's happening right here in Sacramento. In California, if it's centrally controlled, these local jurisdictions have much less control over what they do. They can have regulations for where you can locate these facilities, but they're much less likely to be able to prohibit it altogether if it's a central statewide agency. The Inland Empire case taught us that these local jurisdictions will take the rug out from underneath you. They'll prohibit growth altogether. And the Inland Empire case was more of a commercial, cooperative. No one has challenged the individual right of someone under Prop 215 to grow marijuana. That may be coming. I've got some friends who are making noises about that within this new state law that the governor signed. How much does a patient get to grow? This new law is 100 square feet. Now, that may be challenged. The Kelly case, the California Supreme Court said you can't change Prop 215 with legislation. Prop 215 was interpreted through the Trippets case that you can have a reasonable amount for your medical conditions at the time. Now, I don't know that that's been changed. They may try to, but that's been interpreted to mean if you and your doctor decide that you need an amount, and Chris Conrad could come in and help a jury explain and understand why you need that amount, that should be how much you get. 100 square feet may work for a lot of people, but I can tell you for Molly, 100 square foot wasn't going to work, and a lot of people can't. There's a lot of counties out there who allow more than 100 square feet right now. March of next year, this new law says you get 100 square feet. What's that going to do? I don't know. What are these initiatives going to do to address that? Another problem are physicians. Now, I got very intimately involved. I met with the Attorney General, Bill Lockyer, back in the year 2000. I went to his right-hand guy from the Attorney General's office, handed him medical marijuana. He was an old Dan Lundgren conservative holdover, didn't like marijuana. He and I got along only so well. I went to the medical board, and they were even more right-wing. They wanted Todd Mikarias, who they wanted. And when I told him Todd was my friend, we stopped communicating very well. But inside the medical community, the medical board, they want to go after doctors now who are, I don't know what the word is, over-recommenders, hyper-recommend, whatever term they want to use now. Well, Prop 215 has these language that no doctor can be punished or denied any right or privilege for I make a recommendation. And here we got this law says if you're an over-recommender, we're going to pound you. There's a whole nother challenge to this. So my crystal ball isn't working very well. I wish I could tell you the tea leaves are, showing me what's going to happen here. This new set of state laws that got passed have some troubling things in it. They allow outside people to come in and make a lot of money. That concerns me. They don't have very many protections for individual patients. You can only have, I think, 5 people that you can be a caregiver for, and they're going to phase out the collective cooperative model by January 1st of 2018 unless you happen to be somebody running a legitimate business at that point, whatever that means. Oh, unless, of course, you're a felon and you got a marijuana conviction on your record, then you're disqualified. So pay attention to the things that they're trying to advance and ask yourself, what are they trying to do with this stuff? Marijuana is going to be regulated. It's going to be tested. There's going to be packaging that's going to have to follow the FDA rules. What's in it? You can't poison people. If you do, you're going to get sued. But right now, you can't even buy insurance for this. It's a cash business. That's a whole other problem. And the federal government's kind of laughing about this. They're not going to allow people to use the banks. They're still threatening the banks. They won't let you have tax, write-offs for a legitimate business because, of course, this is just a drug enterprise like you're running heroin from the Golden Triangle. Anyway, I could go on about this for hours. We got other people to talk. Please use knowledge. Understand the endocannabinoid system. Understand, as Rudy said, the routes of titration, the methods of action. Because facts is how we're going to get this done. When they back up, take a deep breath, and aggressively, because most of them smoke pot, or their kids have, and come back and say, come in with retarded, they don't have all these other problems they try to scare us with. It's not a gateway to anything besides a Hershey bar. This stuff just doesn't fly anymore. But in right now of what they're going to do to splinter all these different initiatives, they're going to get the egos trumpeting out there. It is not about Cheech and Chong. This is not about any of the old stereotypes. This is little children. I remember telling people that we need to bring Betty White out. Bring that lady out and say, I smoke pot. It helps my arthritis or whatever, okay? That's the face we need to give to Mary and Joe Doak's voter out there, that this is mainstream now. That this is about people not wanting to go to jail, not suffering the fate that I suffered, because a lot of people have done that. It's also just one part in the war on drugs that we need to all be mindful of to try to help unravel. Take this away from them. Take the money away from cartels. Take this power away from the government. Take these laws away, and don't give them the right to get into your life and run you through this mill called the war on drugs. Anyway, thank you all for your patience.
Everybody, thank you guys. Thank you so much, Dale. That's a great example of he's the he's a bad word, but the tragedies. But the word I'm looking for is the war, prisoners of war. He was a prisoner of the drug war, and a lot of us, any one of us in this room, could end up in a situation where law enforcement is taking our medicinal use and twisting it and trying to use it against us. So it's a hard thing that we got to end. We got to put an end to the abuses of law enforcement, particularly with cannabis patients. So I really appreciate Dale coming up here and speaking, and we're going to move on to the next speaker. Who wants to go next? All right, we're going to have Lynette Davies come up real quick and talk about what happened at the city, and then we'll have Tristan Soderberg. Is it Soderberg? Tristan come up after that.
Hello all. City has started their hearings with the at the Law and Ledge Committee, and before we even get into the city of Sacramento, one of the things we have to really be on the lookout for is because they have this March deadline. Cities have decided that if they don't have an ordinance in place by March of 2016, that state law overrides. So therefore, there are a lot of cities all the way across are having hearings right now. Butte County had a hearing this last week. We just have to have our eyes on the agenda. Every single city or county is going to be up there because they want to have some kind of ordinance or they want to have bans, and that's what they're placing. They're placing a lot of bans. City of Sacramento wanted to go forward. When they first came forward, they said, we're going to take a look at having a cultivation adjustments or some kind of something to put on the books for cultivation. What I noticed most out of what they did, not once in there did they mention our patient's right to cultivate. All they are looking at is money, commercialization, and how they want to run and how they can tax, get extra permit fees, how they can keep moving forward. So one of the things I asked while I was there is that they take a look at cultivation for patients on an individual basis to be able to cultivate at their homes for the exact same reason that Dale just said, because of the way these laws are coming through, and with even with the ballot initiatives, the cost is going to either put us back into a black market, which brings us back into the criminal justice system, and the people that get hurt are our patients. So I think this is a time for everybody to show up, especially for the right to cultivate your own cannabis. You need to be heard. When the next hearing in the city of Sacramento is going to be on December 10th. It'll still be in the Law and Ledge, which means it'll be at 3 p.m. And it'll be kind of like the second phase of them looking at, hey, what are we kind of adopting? But one of the other things they were looking at, which they didn't mention at, they were looking at actually making changes to our city code on the ordinance. And I do believe that we should be able to relocate. If a dispensary has a permit, if it's a liquor permit for any other agency, if it's a store permit, if that store moves, your permit moves with you. Now, what they're doing different on this is they're saying, okay, if a dispensary needs to move, we're going to let you move. This will be because right now they couldn't, but you're going to have to refile, which means you're going to have to pay us another $35,000 because you choose to move, because that's what the permit cost is, by the way, in the city of Sacramento. $35,000 by the time you're done. That's a move, yes, and they're going to call it a relocation fee because they're going to have a relocation fee. So you're going to have that on top of it. That's if they give you the privilege of moving. So, but I do believe they should have the privilege of moving. And the other thing they're looking at is possibly being able to transfer management. Transfer management. We don't even want to get me on that one right now, because one of the things that we wanted to do, and I really worked hard on, is having a legitimate business industry in the city of Sacramento. That included, as dispensaries dropped off for whatever reason, having legitimate, everyday citizens, you guys, be able to apply for permits. That has never happened in the city of Sacramento, and I want to know why. So I asked while I was there to have an independent audit of how they're running their system, because one of the things they were sure to point out was that they have raised, in the year of 2014-15, the city has collected, just in their 4% tax, $2.86 million. That's how much you have paid above and beyond sales tax to the city of Sacramento. So I think when you take a look at how much money is being generated from the industry, you start looking at how come everybody is looking at this business and why everybody's making a run for this money. It's like, oh my gosh, if we can add this on, we can fund this and we can fund that. But right now, all you're doing is taking from sick people that are desperate to be able to have the right to obtain cannabis. When we look at full legalization moving forward, I think it's going to be imperative that we look at the cost of the taxation that they're adding on to it. And even with our new this new legislation comes through, a third-party transportation system, I am totally and thoroughly disgusted with. And that is my own opinion. When a farmer can't take their own product to market, that they actually have to hire a Teamster union worker to be able to pick it up and take it into a processing center, who has to take it back to the farmer if they doesn't buy it, who has to take it back to the distribution center if they ever want to sell it. Somebody has to pay for all of these things, and guess what? It all comes to us, and that's why it's very, very critical that you stay in touch with what's happening so that we all know what's going on and we're all involved, because if you close your eyes, they're going to slide it right through to you. The other thing that they didn't mention at the City of Sacramento's Law and Ledge is that came out in the newspaper today that Sacramento Councilman Jay Chenier seeks another marijuana tax. He wants to put it on the ballot, so the minute that legalization comes through, say that we have an initiative that I think you're going to speak on with a 15% tax. They want to have your 8% then or 8.5% sales tax. The city wants to up it to 10% for the taxation on cannabis on 2016 for recreational usage so far is what they said, but I would not put it past them not to raise it to 10% for medicinal also. So start looking at what they're doing and start streaking back and saying, no, I have had it. Medicine is meant to, for sick people to keep them healthy. Do not take it out of their hands. Thank you.
And just to add on to that, we can't really trust the city, can we? They passed Measure C, which was already supposed to cover a healthy 10% tax on non-medical if it passed for Prop 19, and a 2 to 4% tax on medical. And then when Prop 19 didn't pass, we started with a 4% tax on medical. And that's a sin tax on people's medicine. It's completely inappropriate. Now, if you're not familiar, if you've been under a rock, we have, I think, 18 initiatives filed in the state of California. CCHI is here gathering signatures, and then we also have the newly filed, not to be confused with what's that other one called? The Sean Parker Initiative. This is not that, but it was filed on the same day by a local man, George Mall lawyer. And his son Tristan has come here to let us know what's going on with this initiative and how it's going to move on in the future. So come on, welcome Tristan Soderberg Mull.
Yeah, thank you very much. So hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm glad to hear it. Hey, so yeah, absolutely right. Hey, so I'm kind of new to this, so I apologize if it's a little off, but all right, I'm gonna, sorry, right here? Yeah, can you hear it better? Just match it up like this, like that. Is this better? Okay, thank you. All right, does that work? All right, perfect. All right, fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna read off a little bit. I wrote this earlier. All right, so to get on with things, my name is Tristan Sodermull, and I've come here today to talk to you about the Cannabis Control and Taxation Act, which was filed at 4/20 last Monday, exactly, at the Attorney General's office. If you'd like to read the initiative, I've handed out a few, or you can go on oag.ca.gov, initiative 150104. First, before I get into the details of the initiative itself, I'd like to go into a little bit of history of how it became to be. George Mull, my father and author and proponent of the Cannabis Control and Taxation Act, did not expect to have to write it in the first place. Back in 2010, my dad actually led the opposition against Prop 19, a voters' initiative that he saw as poorly drafted and too geared to benefiting the few instead of looking out for the rights of the patients. Despite the opposition to Prop 19, or perhaps because of it, my father chose me the principal drafter of a legislation initiative in 2013. This effort was backed by 35 different organizations, from the ASA, the DPA, the MPP, and of course, SacNORML. Unfortunately, the funding never materialized to get that initiative on the ballot. Fast forward to 2015. My father has worked closely with Reform CA Group for the past year and has thrown fundraisers and provided advice. Reform CA was supposed to have language drafted by spring of this year, but when August came around and no draft had been written, my father began to become worried. So, the first weekend of September, he decided to go rent himself an Airbnb by a creek in Nevada City, and he and his staff decided to write their own initiative. What came after this was Cannabis Control and Taxation Act, a 10-page initiative. It is now 11. He gifted the language to Reform CA, but they decided to instead work with an LA law firm. It soon became clear afterwards that billionaire Sean Parker, a tech mogul, was going to put his own money behind his own initiative. The big reform organizations appeared to be leaning towards Parker, so my dad decided to offer his support. So he and Steve D'Angelo decided to enter a meeting and had a 2-week dialogue with Lance Olson, Sean Parker's lawyer, and a long-term friend of my father. And a lot of substantial changes were made to Sean Parker's draft, but they were not enough. The Parker draft didn't repeal a single cannabis criminal statute and didn't deschedule or even reschedule marijuana. Instead, the draft was a conservative document crafted based on polling. In addition, the Parker crew refused to block tobacco and liquor businesses from entering the cannabis space. My father decided he had to provide another option, for he thought to himself, we can do better. Even then, he held off on filing until it was clear that there was no other option. And thus, at 4/20 last Monday, the California Cannabis Taxation Act was born. Now that we have some background, let me begin to lay out some key differences between the CCTA and the Parker draft. The key goal of the CCTA is to decriminalize marijuana. The initiative, therefore, takes marijuana off the California Controlled Substance Act list and repeals all of the health and safety code provisions that make cannabis activities criminal. Under the act, most violations result in a fine instead of jail time. For example, the penalty for any person 18 or over passing a joint to a 17-year-old girlfriend, sibling, friend has been changed to track the penalties for giving a minor a cigarette, a simple $200 fine. Under Parker's initiative, if you were to do the same, provide the same joint under the same circumstances to the same person, you could be thrown in jail for up to 4 years. Also, as previously stated, it does not deschedule marijuana, but instead it continues to treat it as a dangerous substance. They do not even reschedule it, leaving it as a Schedule 1 substance, while opiates and cocaine remain a Schedule 2. To wrap up, the CCTA strives to ensure that Californians have freedom of choice and to change California law so that no one goes to prison for a plant. The backers of the CCTA see that as necessary, and they see that as possible. The Parker Initiative is based on what political professionals advise is probable at the next general election. They think that their initiative is good enough. Good enough. Please join us in striving for what is right for California. Good enough is not good enough. Let's strive to accomplish what is possible and what is right. Let us strive to normalize cannabis in California. Thank you. I'll be taking any questions as well if you have. Yeah. Anyone have anything specific? Sorry, what? It's oag.ca.gov. If you wish to look up specifically as well in the initiatives ballot, you can look up the Cannabis Control and Taxation Act or 150104. oag.ca.gov. It's the Office of Administrative General. Yeah.
All right. Anybody have questions? I have one. What is the legal age for legal use of cannabis under this bill?
Recreational use? Yeah. 21 years of age.
What is it? Decriminalize 18 to 21-year-old use?
You can still use it as a medicinal patient if you are licensed, but if you are not licensed, then it is you can be fined for up to twice the price of a recreation if you don't have your rec. Yes. Yes.
He asked, does it have a plant limit or a square footage?
Yes, it is. You can have 12 plants per parcel, and so you can have 6 plants per person, and per household you can have 12 plants in total. Yes. No, I don't believe so. I mean, unless I'm unless
if you're going to talk a lot, so you need to come up talk on the mic.
Yeah, sorry. Unless I'm misinterpreting it myself, and I apologize. I've read it over 3 times, but I'm not the chief component, so if I misconstrue the language, I apologize for that. Yes, any questions you have, you can send to my email. I'll provide that afterwards as well.
I think she's alluding to the fact that a Senate bill can't override a proposition voted on by the people.
Okay.
Suzette, you had a question? Yeah. She asked, do they specifically recognize medical cannabis?
In the initiative itself, or me personally? In the initiative, yes, it is. We do recognize medicinal cannabis as well. It is. They are separate. The recreation, medicinal. I don't. As far as that, I can't say for certain. But yeah, I'll like I said, any questions like that I can take later. Yes. For children,
does it change the law as far as medication for children? I'm doing this for the podcast.
Yeah, no,
sorry.
I understand. No, absolutely. I apologize. I'm just answering immediately. As far as for children, it is if for a parent, for example, if they were to give it to a child, the child, if they have a medical condition, can be scheduled and can, let's say Jaden's juice, for example, it can be applied if it actually is necessary for an epileptic child. It is legally possible. But if you were to give it to a child that is not a recreation, does not have a, yes, sorry, I apologize, yes. Yeah.
What is the law with that? Then it would be the parent. Is it the parent who has to have a license or the child who has to have a license? And so then the second part is if it's the parent giving it to the child, then what?
Okay, well, I believe it is as a caregiver, you can give it to a child. So the child has to have proof that they have a medical condition, and the parent therefore has to be able to have a license as a caregiver to purchase for that child and to administer medicine to them.
Jan?
How does this affect the 420 doctors like today? Are they, is there a limit?
What's the impact on the doctor's ability to write recs?
Yes, how many, is there a limit or anything?
I don't believe so. Although any ability to license a patient is provided by the county or the city. It is. I don't want to misconstrue. Actually, I understand somewhat, but I don't understand fully. So if I were to tell you, I could be potentially lying. I don't wish to misconstrue the language.
Any more questions? I have one last question. Have you ever done this before?
No, I haven't.
Well, you're a pro.
Well, thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
I like to see our youth getting involved because
Well,
I'm
yeah.
getting tired.
I promise that the next time I speak, I will have all the facts. I got into this about a week
You
and a
did
half
great.
ago.
I thought you did a
Yeah.
wonderful job.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, well, thank you for your support and for all the other speakers. Good luck.
Thank you, Tristan. Where should they follow you guys? Is our website?
Yeah.
Just on the website.
CaliforniaCan.org. California can do better. 2 N's.
And then question I asked earlier that you answered, January is when we should start looking if we want to volunteer or there might be paid signature gathering possibly.
Potentially. As far as since we filed November 2nd, we're not going to get it back until this, and it's not going to be actually. We have a month to do any changes we want to it, and then it is put forth. And we usually won't get it back for about a month. And due to the fact that there's holidays, we probably won't get it back until first week of January. So then we can start doing signatures, and we will have many different events. We plan on doing festivals and different ways to get people together where we can potentially do signatures and raise awareness. As Rudy, wonderful person, beautiful person, as consistently said, is about information and not clouding the subject. And you cannot cloud a subject when you provide information on the subject. So I wish to expose both initiatives and all other initiatives fully.
I do have one more question.
One more question.
Is there a difference between the indoor plant limit and outdoor plant limit?
Different between indoor plant limit and outdoor plant limit.
I do not believe so. I do know as far as the outdoor plant limit, I can tell you strictly. I mean, at that part I can answer is if you have a yeah, it's 12. And if you were to have one, you were to grow outdoors, you have to have a greenhouse with a locked door. Or you can have it in, I think, indoor as well. I remember reading earlier, at least, but don't quote me fully on it, is that you can also grow indoors as long as you have the ability to regulate, and you can lock the door as well so that it is not easily accessible for anyone to randomly walk into or for a child to be able to just pick up as well. I believe, yeah.
My only objection with the indoor plant limits on in most cities, counties, is that indoors you'd have to have 20,000 lots to grow 6 plants to meet your requirement for your medicinal usage.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
the money doesn't really, the money as far as that goes doesn't really make a lot of sense. I understand that. Like if you have 6 outdoors, the sun is your natural limit. If you're indoors, it wouldn't really make as much economic sense. So I believe, well, you can read and decide what it is.
well, you said you had 2 months to make any changes.
Yeah, any
Did you
change.
make a change saying that someone indoor who only grows indoors and who maybe is in a wheelchair who can't grow outdoors can eat plants indoors in a tent like that?
I think the point is that everybody needs to get in touch, eloquently write down your suggestions and get them into George Mull before their next filing. And then if you want to get involved with signatures signing, if you like what they come up with in January, and you want to get involved with signatures and whatnot, watch the website, right?
All right, and with that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? I think we did the whole agenda. Marcia, did you want to make a quick announcement? Brownie Mary? Brownie Mary Democratic Club is our local political club that is battling within the. It's not a battle; they're actually kind of on our side, but their problem is not being super strong. A lot of Democrats with their convictions, but you want to talk about there's a lot of Democrats who like marijuana personally, who you would never know it by the way they vote because they're afraid of re-election.
Well, actually, we're trying to fix that. We have the Brownie Mary Democratic Club of Sacramento County. There's, I believe, 6 other clubs of this nature in California. And now the Democratic Party of California has chartered the club as a statewide club. And I just happen to be the vice chair for Central California for that club. Our next convention for the California Democratic Party will be in February in San Jose. So I think it's a couple $100 for a permit to be an observer, but it's going to be really, really fun. And the Brownie Mary Club is going to have a room for meetings. They're going to have a hospitality suite, and then we're also going to have our own meeting, to elect officers or what to do in the meetings at the caucuses. So we're going to have a large presence there in February, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So if you want to participate, let me know, and I'll give you the information on how you can go to the convention and be an observer. I'm a delegate, so I run for election every 2 years in my assembly district so that I can go. And so I'm going on behalf of Sacramento area. And in January, we are planning on having a small medical marijuana discussion panel. And we've got Dr. Molly Fry and Richard Miller, Kim Cargile, and Lakeisha Jenkins, Dr. Lakeisha Jenkins. They've agreed to come and do a discussion. So what I want to do is I'm going to talk to all the club presidents in Sacramento for the, we have about 17 Democratic clubs in town. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to try to get them to come out to this thing, not only to learn about cannabis and medical cannabis, but to show this community that they're going to be supporting them. And I'm going to turn around and ask you guys to come to the same thing so that you can show the local Democrats that you are not a bunch of stoners, that and that you will be willing to help them in their quest for office here in the county and in the state. And just in case you didn't remember, Bernie Sanders just filed a bill in the Senate to deschedule cannabis. He's the man.
How do we contact you?
Local endorsement.
Oh yeah, we also made a local endorsement, which is pretty cool. Darrell Steinberg is planning on running for mayor of Sacramento now that Kevin Johnson is not going to run. Darrell will be running against Angelique Ashby, and she's not been a friend to our community, but Darrell has. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that Darrell and some of the other progressive candidates here in town know that they can get our support. We'll walk precincts for them. We'll make phone calls. We'll do stuff for them. And that's going to endear them to our community because we are already activists. So all we need to do is turn it in a particular direction.
How do we contact you?
I'll give you that information. I'm going to pass out some pamphlets.
And what's your website for the podcast people who can't get a pamphlet? What's the website, Marcia? BMDC, Brownie Mary Democratic Club of SacCounty.org. And maybe we'll put it in the comments on here too, try to make that a little bit easier. Okay, we have one more speaker that's going to talk to us a little bit about the signature gathering effort for CCHI. Christine Van Skyke has been starting the signature gathering process and has a little bit to say.
Hi, thank you everybody for the opportunity to get together again once a month. It's nice to have our hostess with the mostest, Ron, taking care of us and here at Percos. I'm up here to talk about the CCHI Cannabis Initiative for our new initiative, our signature gathering efforts for the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative. I do want to go over a couple things to make sure that everybody has in their mind what it is about California Cannabis Hemp Initiative that makes us different, that makes it important for us to pay attention to what's going on with the legalization in 2016. Number one, this is an act to actually amend the law to deschedule and declassify cannabis in the state of California for a multitude of uses. California Cannabis Hemp Initiative clearly defines the different uses within our state as industrial products, medicinal preparations, nutritional products, euphoric products. So there's a lot of different ways that we use cannabis, hemp, marijuana, and those products are can be capitalized with the resources in the state of California through our agricultural community. So we have begun the signature collecting campaign. Your signature gives us an opportunity to put our initiative on the ballot, to go forward in front of the people, to let them know that we want them to set our plants free. It also provides for the immediate release and expunge of all nonviolent cannabis offenders in the state of California. It protects the prescribing doctors. It allows cannabis collectives to provide a primary caregiver role for any of the medical patients. It protects medical patients in the state of California and allows us to provide medicine to our children or to our elders, to ourselves, to our friends or our family. It allows up to 99 plants for personal use. After 99 plants, you become a commercial distributor, and then we will support you through those commercial efforts in the state of California under our California Department of Agriculture. If you're a commercial vendor, then the existing agency will manage it similar to the alcohol, tobacco laws that already exist for adult use. So that's the idea behind the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative. The other thing that makes us very different and very special is it is written in here that we will not allow GMOs. We also will not allow the corporate takeover of the small California expertise cannabis farmer. That these are our lands and these are our local soils, and we are the experts, and we demand to be able to grow them, produce them, transport them, sell them, and share them, create medicine, research them, and provide an opportunity and an avenue for us in California to change our economic standing, to create jobs, and to create a economy for the farmers once again in our amazing state. So that's California Cannabis Hemp Initiative. If you look around the room right to left, you're going to see somebody that's going to have an initiative, and they're going to be gathering signatures. So find your friend, get involved, get a signature gathering effort. We'll help you through the process, and we'll get it done. The last and most important thing that you need to know about CCHI 2016 is we do not have one large funder, not one. It's just us. It's me and you and that guy and those guys. It's the effort from the people. This is truly a grassroots effort throughout the state. There are people in rooms similar to us, and if we don't gather the signatures, then our initiative won't make it on the ballot. So it's about signature gathering, one signature at a time. So we appreciate your effort and support. We hope that you will sign the initiative and help us in our efforts to make that collection. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Christine. I'm a proud signature gatherer for CCHI. I got 3 so far. But please, if you can, sign up. I think Grant Eddie Mike and Bob Bowerman have run this into the ground, but there's no harm in signing more than one initiative. There is a harm in signing one initiative twice. So pay attention to what initiative you're signing and sign them all if you can. But if you can't remember if you signed it or not, you might want to make sure. Maybe make some notes, put it in your phone or something. Then the person who got your signature the second time could be they're going to lose that, and there might be some trouble. I think, I don't know. It's not the end of the world, but you just got to be careful. But yeah, there's a myth out there that people are not going to want to sign them. I think pretty much all of us are going to sign these initiatives when they come through, unless they just have something really, really bad in them. So normally we would end our meeting with a raffle, but we're not doing the raffle today. So we're going to go ahead and close up. Does anybody have any announcements that have any upcoming events? Everybody knows about Emerald Cup in December. We will not have a meeting before, I think it's the 16th is the date of the second Wednesday in December. So the weekend before our next normal meeting will be the Emerald Cup. I don't really know of anything, so keep an eye on the page. 10 free VIP tickets. Come and see Rudy for tickets to his event. I'm definitely going to do that. All right, thank you guys, everybody, for coming. We will be back here on this Christmas party. So, winter party, not Christmas. Thank you, guys.